Shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to say, Call Halal Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Recha HaKodash, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who taught us this truth and rule well. And Shalom to the hopeful elect, Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Recha HaKodash, Barakatam. It's the brother Kazar from the Minneval 12 West Coast, coming back at it again with another lesson. And the title of this lesson is, This Could Be a Motivator. All right, and it's concerning the situation in Europe, all right, because they have, declared a ban on Russian oil. Basically they declared an embargo against Russia, all right, concerning the oil and their fuels. All right, now I came across, this website. All right, it's called eceuropa.eu. All right, and it says Russia is the main EU supplier of crude oil, natural gas, and solid fuels. Okay, so the EU is basically, which I believe, through the spirit that they're being pushed to do this, by the whore, which is, Babylon. All right, to do that. All right, because that's, something that would completely not benefit them. To cut off the main supplier of your fuel. That is, kind of, shooting yourself in the foot, if you will. These Russians, they don't really care, for the EU, and they don't really depend on that, because they're already, which I'm about to bring out in a little bit, Lord's will, they already finding other customers for their fuel. They don't care much for that, and as a result, all right, with this oil ban, you have, some countries that are not, going for it, man. It's kind of like, what the scripture says, in Daniel's chapter 2, the clay and the iron. Some countries are stronger, more established, more solidified, more powerful. And then you have, which they make up the iron. And then you have, smaller countries that are not as powerful, more vulnerable, more dependent on, the Russians, if you will. That's the clay, So let's just get into this article. All right, we're going to bring out a couple more and then hit some scriptures. All right, so it says Russia is the main EU, European Union supplier of crude oil, natural gas, and solid fuels. In 2020, almost 3/4 of the extra EU crude oil imports came from Russia, 29%. All right, so that's 29%, almost 30%. The United States, 9%. Norway, 8%. Saudi Arabia and the United Kingdom, both 7%, as well as Kazakhstan and Nigeria, both 6%. All right, so you see the numbers there. Russia, by far, all right, they by far, overpass the competition. All right, and it says a similar analysis shows that over 3/4 of the EU's imports of natural gas came from Russia, 43%, Norway 21%, Algeria 8%, Qatar 5%. All right, so natural gas is almost half their imports, man. All right, so they're really shooting themselves in the foot doing this. It says while more than half of the solid fuel, mostly coal imports, originated from Russia, 54%, dang, followed by the United States 16% and Australia 14%. All right, so there you have it, man. Russia is, the European Union's main supplier of fuels. All right, whether it be oil, natural gas, and solid fuel, such as coal and the likes. All right, so with this embargo, it basically is going to be detrimental. It's definitely going to have, definitely going to be seeing, gas prices, go way higher in the European Union, and they might go up even higher here, man. Who knows? All right, this just happened, about a week ago. All right, so EU proposes a ban on Russian oil imports this year, and Hungary says no. Okay, so you see, Hungary, all right, is one of the countries that, would represent the clay. We look up Hungary compared to the other, countries in the European Union. It's pretty weak, man. All right, so let's go, let's just go hit a map. All right, so you see Hungary right there, all right, in the red outline, all right, which is, first of all, it's all the way, to the east. Okay, it's kind of right next to, the Ukraine, where all the wars is going on, right? And then you see the rest of the countries. You got Spain, you got France, United Kingdom, Italy. You know what I'm saying? These would be and also Germany as well. These would be the countries that you could say are the iron in the iron and the clay. Represented in Daniel's chapter 2. All right, because that's basically the feet of the statue. Which actually, let's bring it out. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna get to the point. Not necessarily break down the whole thing. Just for time's sake. All right. So, Book of Daniel, chapter 31, it's like chapter 2, verse 31. All right, and it reads, "Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee." All right, and the form thereof was terrible. Okay, now you go through, the different parts of this image, from head to the feet. They basically made out of, the different sections of the statue of this image is basically representing, it's like a being made out of the different materials. All right, is a representation of the different nations that ruled in their respective kingdoms. All right, so then we get let me see. All right, so then we get to verse 33, where it says, "His legs of iron, which represent the Roman Empire, his feet part of iron and part of clay." All right, and that represents that there represents this kingdom. All right, which not this kingdom, but basically, this devil's rulership in the modern time, because you have, clay, all right, and then you have iron. Now, comparison in strength, those two, iron is a lot more stronger, much more stronger, is on its own level compared to the clay. All right, so that's what's basically happening, with this ban. All right, you got some countries that are basically it's like, it's a word for it. They can't take it. So let's see another thing. All right, so put a price cap on Russian oil while EU hammers out an embargo. It's running out of options. See, this is West propaganda. You know what I'm saying? But in reality, the Russians, man, they're gonna find other customers, man. They're gonna go to the Chinese. They're gonna go to the North Koreans, right? If they haven't already, they're gonna go to the East Indians, all right, which is the nation, biblical nationality. They're Elamites, all right. So they're not worried about that, man. All right. So let me see, just getting straight to the point. All right. So before the war in Ukraine, Russia sold about half its barrels. It's like half of its barrels, 7.85. It's like 7.85 million barrels a day of crude and refined oil to Europe. All right. But with the war and the EU's vow to abruptly end its reliance on Russian oil and gas, the Kremlin has been benefiting from high world prices while looking for new customers and reorienting its export strategy towards Asia. All right, so you have the different, countries that are in Asia, and not to mention, not to mention, the so-called East Indians, which is, the countries India. All right, they make up part of the BRIC nations. All right, so let me see. I'm just gonna skim through it. You know what I'm saying? Even with severe oil cuts. Okay, so this is what they're saying. The Russians. All right, this paragraph right here says, even with severe oil production cuts expected this year, Russia's tax revenue will increase significantly to more than 180 billion due to the spike in oil prices. Okay, so basically they're auctioning. It's like they're auctioning off their oil towards the highest bidder. All right, and this isn't no pro-Russian propaganda, because if you look at the website, it's written by the Washington Post. All right, so it says, according to Rystad Energy, an independent research firm advising investors, the figure is 45% higher than in 2021. All right, so the European Union, they just played themselves, man. All right, we just read how the majority of their oil comes from the Russians, and they went up and try to ban them, try to see if that holds any effect, but really it's more toward the Russian benefit, man. All right, so it says the overall pattern of the traffic suggests that Russia's exports of crude oil, all right, dropped at most 20%, a modest amount given the sanction efforts. All right. So, they basically, what I'm saying that it's affecting them. All right. So continuing on, it says Russia has sold oil to India and China, which have large, rapidly growing economies and have disregarded international sanctions linked to the war. All right. India's purchases of Russian oil, which once accounted for less than 3% of India's consumption, has soared. China was already Russia's biggest Asian customer and needs oil to fuel its burgeoning automobile and petrochemical industries. But the Asian markets have their limits for Russia. It has finite pipeline capacity in the region, and its oil tankers have to make long journeys to deliver their loads over time. That could exact a financial toll on Russia. All right, so they're trying to, flip it around, like this is going to affect Russia, but really, it's not going to. All right, because, scriptures say, they shall have no regard for the silver and for the gold, they shall not delight in it. All right, roughly paraphrasing. Okay, so continuing on, let me see. Russia says production by 2030 will be 20 million barrels a day, lower than, it's like 2 million barrels a day, lower than before the war. The result of permanent damage from closing down production in its wells that cannot be restored. All right, so you know what I'm saying? That's what, they're basically saying. But what they don't understand is that, by 2030, I'm, you know what I'm saying? Not to put a date, on the day of the Lord, we might be in the kingdom by then. All right, Lord willing, man. We don't want to be here, 7 more years, man. All right, so let me see. In this early phase of sanctions and embargoes, Russia will benefit as higher prices mean tax revenues are significantly higher than in the recent years. All right, Melnick said in a report last week, pivoting exports toward Asia will take time and massive infrastructure investments that in the medium term will see Russia's production and revenues drop precipitously. Okay, and then you also have, the countries in South America, all right, which might, benefit from buying, the Russian exports in the oil, man. All right, like you got Europe, for example. They might be buying, the Russian oil. All right, considering that, the U.S. basically took control of the Venezuelan oil, so who knows what's going to happen with that, man. But that could play out in Russia's favor. All right, so it's not to get all, geopolitical, but just illustrating the situation, all right, that's going on. This is going to affect Europe much more than it's going to affect Russia. All right, because Europe is that bottomless pit, man. All right, Europe is that bottomless pit. It's not gonna produce, any fuel out of thin air, man. It's just going to it's just going to need and require more fuel from their other, alternatives, and that's just gonna, you know what I'm saying? That's just gonna, be detrimental to their supplies. So hey, you're gonna expect more, extremely, high fuel prices in Europe and possibly even here in Babylon, man. All right, possibly even here in Babylon, you're gonna be seeing that. Okay, so let's go hit some of the scriptures. All right, and this might be a motivator in the Europe's, turning against Babylon as it is written. All right, so let's go hit, dealing with the Medes. All right, let me see. All right. So the book of Isaiah chapter 13, verse 17, behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Okay, and if you see, with the if you've been noticing with the actions that the European Union is taking towards Russia, and not just the European Union, but Babylon too, being the NATO and the EU. All right, they're basically targeting their silver and their gold. All right, but the scripture says they're not going to regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. All right, now you could look at the definition of the word regard. Okay, let me see, regard. All right. So regard, consider, or think of someone or something in a specified way. all right, attention or concern for something. All right, so the scriptures, the prophecy is basically saying like, yo, they're not going to care about that. All right, they're not going to be concerned about the silver, the economic repercussions. Okay, because them Russians is in a whole nother spirit, man. And it's Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai that's putting that spirit upon them. All right, here it is. The European Union thinks shit is sweet. Going and banning, the prices. It's like the oil from it's like the oil imports from Russia, right? But here it is. They really just shot themselves in the foot with that one. The reason, as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men into pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb, and their eyes shall not spare children. In Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when Yahweh Shem Yahushua overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. All right, so that's what's basically playing out, man. All right, because it's gonna be mainly these Russians that's gonna be destroying Babylon. All right, but also too. All right, let me look up beast, hate, whore. All right, it's not just gonna be, the Russians that's gonna be destroying this place. The EU is gonna destroy this place too, man. All right, the European Union, the European countries, man, they're gonna turn against Babylon. All right, which represents the whore. Okay, so Revelation chapter 17 verse 16, and then and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. Okay, and that's what's gonna happen. All right, and that's why I named the lesson as thus. This might be a indicator, man, because here it is. They're doing and doing things that's not for their benefit. Just to please Babylon. That's I believe is Babylon the ones that's pushing the European Union to make to take those actions against Russia. All right, so when they're over here doing these things and taking detrimental actions that's detrimental to their livelihood and their way of life out there in Europe, that's when they're going to start turning on America, man. That's when they're going to start turning on America. You're going to have the populace that's going to turn against the government. It's just going to be a brewing spirit of anti-Babylon out there in the EU. Okay, like you already had in the past, which I brought this out. Let me see. French, I believe he's French presidential candidate. All right, French presidential candidate join Russia. All right, let me see. Marine Le Pen's. No, that's not it. But basically, you had certain people in the French office. All right, that I believe it's the French, or was it the Spain? I forgot. It was a while back. But I also did a lesson on it. That basically they wanted to side with the Russians, man, and that's before the war even popped off. That's before that ban on the oil even popped off. So you're gonna have that. A sensation, if you will. All right, you're gonna have that notion, that idea that from these Europeans that's gonna wanna turn against the war. All right, turn against America and side with the Russians, man. All right, verse 17, for Yahweh Shem Yahushua hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will. Okay, and this is ultimately all coming from Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Okay, because as it is written in the book of so like I don't know why I keep on flipping to. I'm gonna use the other sword to use this one. All right, so this is in the book of Proverbs chapter 21. Let me see right quick. Proverbs 21. All right, so Proverbs 21:1. The king's heart is in the hand of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, as the rivers of water. You turneth it whithersoever you will. So it's ultimately going to be Yahweh Shem Yahushua that's going to put it in the different rulers, all right, presidents or whatnot of these European countries to turn against America. All right, so it reads, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh Shem Yahushua shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Okay, so America has that influence over the European Union. It's probably the main one pushing for that European oil ban. All right, but that could be a motivator. That could possibly be a motivator for the European Union turning against the war. I'm gonna say, Call Allah Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakah Kudash. Forgive me the spirit to do this lesson. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. All right, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.